Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new, and welcome to another bookish video. So today I thought I'd talk about some of the books that I bought because of BookTube. Those are the books that were hugely hyped on BookTube, that everyone was talking about, that I decided I needed to find out what all the fuss was about. This is by no means all the books that I've bought because of BookTube. I have acquired quite a few books over the last couple of years since my obsession with BookTube began. However, I decided that I would speak about 10 of those books today, all of which I have already read. That way we can talk about my thoughts on them, my ratings, and try and answer the question, can I trust BookTube recommendations? So if you would like to hear all about the books that BookTube made me buy, then just keep watching. So first of all, I have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is one that was hugely hyped last year on BookTube, I believe. I heard nothing but incredible things about this book, and I knew that I needed to have a piece of it for myself. This one is a Greek mythology retelling, and one that made me realise I need to read more Greek mythology retellings because they seem to really speak to me. This book had my emotions in absolute overdrive, and I think it has for absolutely everyone that has read it. In this we follow Achilles and Patroclus, who start off as two amazing friends, and then that friendship grows into something deeper, more romantic and more sensual. We follow them from childhood as they grow up together and as their friendship and as their bond changes, and then we follow them to Troy after Helen of Sparta is kidnapped and Achilles must go in order to fulfill his destiny. And if you know the story of Achilles and of Helen of Sparta, you will know just how that one goes. This book was absolutely incredible from start to finish. The writing is some of the most beautiful writing I've ever read. The relationship between these two young men, honestly, I don't think I've ever read something written so well. Madeline Miller just gets that change of like feelings so well, and you see so well how they are starting to realise what they really feel about each other. Honestly, I cried a couple of times throughout this book. My one criticism of this book was that I thought the ending was a little bit rushed, and I thought the ending was really going to absolutely rip my heart out just like the rest of the book had, and because I felt like it was a little bit rushed, it didn't have as much of an emotional impact as I thought it would, and that's why I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next one I have is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. Again, this is one that was hugely hyped on BookTube last year. There was a time when absolutely everyone was speaking about Sally Rooney. She was all over every book platform, and I realised I needed to find out what all the fuss was about. This is my first and only Sally Rooney book so far, and I do know that I need to read more of her books because turns out I love this book. In this one we follow Frances, who is a young woman living in Ireland. She does spoken word poetry with her best friend and ex-girlfriend Bobby. They are then befriended by a journalist named Melissa and her husband Nick, and they have this weird sort of four-way friendship between them. Melissa and Nick pull Bobby and Frances into this world of sort of luxury and dinner parties and glam, and before long Frances and Nick start to realise that a very different type of relationship is forming between the two of them. That's all you really need to know about this book, apart from the fact that it is incredible. The one thing I will say about Sally Rooney is that she writes emotions like no one else I have ever read. It was like she was inside my mind, explaining exactly how I feel about numerous situations and numerous people, and I'm still absolutely awestruck by how she explained all these things, and how so many things that I think are like my weird little nuances are actually things that lots of people experience, that kind of makes you feel a little bit more normal. And again, this one I ended up giving 4 out of 5 stars. The next one I have is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This one, again, was one that was talked about all over BookTube, I think a couple of years ago now, just as all of her books are spoken about as soon as they come out. After reading this book, Elizabeth Acevedo became an auto-buy author for me. I absolutely adore her writing. I have loved every single book that she has written so far. I think I have all 4, and I'm pretty sure I've given all of them 5 stars because they are all incredible. This one, like a couple of her others, is written in verse, and it was one of, I think it was maybe my first book that I've read that is written in verse, and I did not expect to get from it as much as I did. Because it was written like that, I thought it wouldn't be as well developed, it wouldn't have as much emotion in it, but boy was I wrong. Because it's written in verse, I feel like each word is even more important, each word Elizabeth Acevedo has clearly pondered to make sure that she is getting the exact right word she needs for the exact effect that she wants. This one we follow Xiomara, and she uses the spoken word or slam poetry to get all of these emotions out about everything that she is dealing with that she does not talk to anyone about and does not usually let come to the surface. And it says this is a novel about first love and finding your own voice. And honestly, the emotion in this book, the incredible feminism, commentary on race, being a woman, growing up as a young woman feeling that no one sees them or listens to them. This just gave me all the feels, and I gave it 5 stars, as I've already said. The next one I have is The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. This one I think is probably Beth O'Leary's most talked about book. I've also got The Switch from her, which I also loved, and I am still to read The Road Trip, but I'm sure I will love that one as well. But in this one we follow Tiffy and Leon, who share a flat but they never see each other, never spend any time together, because Leon always works the night shift and Tiffy works during the day. So basically the flat is Tiffy's during the night and the flat is Leon's during the day, and they never cross paths just because of the way that their work schedules plan out. And obviously the two of them have their own past, their own things that are going on in their lives, and they start to talk to each other through post-it notes, I believe, that they leave for each other. And then obviously a romance develops and the two eventually meet and stuff goes down. This one was just one of my favourite proper fluffy romances, and it does have some deeper things in it as well. It does have some very emotional, darker points to it. There are some trigger warnings that I would say to look up before delving into this one, but overall on the surface it is a very fluffy romance. It is really cute. Their relationship I just love, and I just thought it was a really quirky way of doing a romance. It's difficult to come up with new ideas these days because it has all been done before, but this one was very new, unique and exciting, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. The next one on this list is probably on everyone's list, to be honest, if they were to make this video or to make this list, and that is Get a Life Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I could put all 3 of the books in this series in this video, but you kind of get the picture. The Brown sisters, hugely hyped on BookTube every time one of their books comes out, or anytime someone discovers it again, I guess, and everyone goes crazy for it. Talia Hibbert's Brown Sister trilogy is just one of my favourite series ever. I gave every single book in the series 5 stars. I love them with all my heart. But in this one we follow Chloe, who is a young woman dealing with a very severe chronic illness. She has kind of hidden herself away from society. She doesn't really have any friends anymore. She's lost them because of her chronic illness. She doesn't have any strong relationships. The only people she really sees and really interacts with are her 2 sisters, and she spends most of the time in her house working or dealing with her illness. And then when she goes through a near-death experience, she realises that she needs to have more to her life, and she sets a bucket list of things that she wants to do before she dies. And then she meets Red, who is the caretaker, I believe, at a flat that she moves into. The two seem very opposite to begin with. They don't seem to like each other, but of course that all changes. And that's all you really need to know, to be honest. It is just such a cute, fluffy romance, again with some deeper issues in there and with some very important points, but overall just an absolutely lovely, cute, all the feels romance that I gave 5 out of 5 stars. The next one I have is actually one that I read really recently, and that is Fangs by Sarah Anderson. This is a very short graphic novel with not much on any of the pages. It is about a love story between a vampire and a werewolf, and it is just full of vampire puns, werewolf puns, supernatural creature puns, one after the other. I laughed out loud the whole time I was reading this. I mean, it only took me about 10 minutes because it's so short and there's barely anything on the page, but I absolutely adored it. I think I will reread this one about 100 times throughout my lifetime. It's one of those ones that I think I'll reach to whenever I'm feeling a little bit down, I want a little bit of a pick-me-up, or if I'm just in a cozy mood looking for a nice, fun, cute romance. This is the one I will pick up. This one was hugely hyped on BookTube last year, and I completely understand why. I had all the same feels as everyone else that I have seen talk about it, and I did give it 5 out of 5 stars. The next one I have is Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. Yep. And this is a horror. It was my one of my first proper horrors I've read, and it has made me realise how much more I need to read horrors, because I'm a huge horror movie buff but I don't read horror books, which makes absolutely no sense because I know I will love them, and I love this one. In this one we follow 4 horror authors of different types of horror from different walks of life, and they are invited to the Finch house in Kill Creek, which is an old abandoned haunted house that has not been lived in for years because of all the scary things that have happened inside it, and they are brought together for a publicity stunt where all 4 of them will stay in Finch house on Halloween night overnight to promote their works, as well as the website, I believe, that has organised it. But when they leave the house, it follows them. They all have very similar scary experiences afterwards, and it becomes a sort of fight for survival in which they are eventually obviously drawn back to Kill Creek. This one is a very dark, violent horror, so if you cannot stand gore or violence of any kind, I would not pick this one up, because I have a strong stomach and I'm okay with gore in films and books, but this one even had me a little bit queasy. But I absolutely loved it. It's such a page turner. It's fast paced, it's tense, it's exciting, it's spooky. Yeah, just everything I wanted from a haunted house horror, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I have that BookTube made me buy is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. If you've watched BookTube at all over the past year or so, there is no way you'll have missed this book because everyone has talked about it, and the rest of the series, to be honest, although I have yet to read any of the other books in this series. But this one follows Poppy, who is the maiden. She is protected at all costs. She is not allowed to be seen, spoken to, heard by anyone apart from those closest to her, which are her bodyguards and the sort of royalty, I believe, that are in this world. It's been a while since I read this book, but basically she is being kept in this state until she can ascend to the gods. Not actually sure what that means, and I feel like I still don't even know what that means, but Poppy doesn't want this. Poppy is a little bit of a rebel, and she tries to fight against these restrictions that are put upon her. And then she meets Hawk. Don't even talk to me about Hawk. He stirs up all sorts of desires in her that she never has felt before. He is her new guard person, and obviously a romance begins. Crazy stuff goes down. There's vampires, there's werewolves, there's all that jazz, and I love this book. It is a hefty one, and I thought it would take me ages to read, and I'm pretty sure I managed to read it within a couple of days because I just could not put it down. So fast paced, so exciting, so sensual. Honestly, I just loved everything about this book, and if you couldn't tell, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Next up, I have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Again, if you know BookTube or book platforms of any kind, you will know about this book. It was hugely hyped last year when it came out, and everyone was obsessed with it, just like me. This one follows Addie LaRue, who makes a deal with the devil in which she will live forever but be remembered by none. So she goes through 300 years of living in which she meets people, she has experiences, but as soon as she walks out the door, as soon as she is no longer in their eye line, they will have no memory of having ever met her. And then one day she walks into a bookshop in New York and meets Henry, and lo and behold, he remembers her. So it then becomes a sort of mystery to work out why he remembers her, what the connection is between these two people. There's romance, there's tension, there's excitement. Overall, there is just absolutely goddamn beautiful writing. I had to stop so many times just to admire the absolutely incredible lines that are in this book. There are so many moments that honestly had tears coming from my eyes. Not even like that sad, like emotional moments, but just the way it was written. It was written with so much emotion, and honestly one of the most beautiful books I have ever read in my entire life. I did end up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars because the ending to me wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't how I wanted things to wrap up. I wasn't completely content with it, but most people adored the ending. That's just me. Apparently I'm a little bit of a weirdo, but I would kind of like to reread this one at some point and see how I feel upon a second reading, and knowing that's coming, reading into it from the start, see how I feel that way. But yeah, overall, absolutely beautifully written book. And finally, I have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. And if you know me at all, you will know my thoughts on this book. It is one of my favourite books of all time, if not the top #1 most favourite book of all time. This one is always hyped on BookTube, to be honest. It always comes back, it always makes a return through different BookTubers, and it's one that is on so many people's like favourites list, so I just feel like it's talked about over and over again. People who are new to BookTube end up buying it because they see how much people talk about it, how much it comes up in all sorts of different videos, and let me tell you, it is definitely warranted. This book basically follows 2 young people who are sorcerers, magicians, apprentices who are put into this deadly game in which they are pitted against each other to see who is the best, and it all sort of goes down in this climactic arena of a circus. However, along the way, the 2 of them do actually end up falling in love as well, so that gets wrapped up in this deadly contest that they are in against each other, and that's kind of all you need to know. All I will tell you is it is magical. That is the word I always use when I describe this book. Obviously there is magic involved in it, but everything about this book is magical. The way it is written, the plot, the characters, the language, the atmosphere. I just love this book with all my heart. If I want any sort of magic in my life, this is the book I will reach to. I absolutely adore it with all my heart, and if it is not clear already, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So here are the 10 books that BookTube made me buy. 10 books I bought because of BookTube recommendations that were highly hyped throughout the last couple of years. You may have noticed that every single one of these books either got a 4 or 5 star review from me. I believe there are 5 4 stars here and 5 5 stars. So if we're going to try and answer the question, can I trust BookTube recommendations? It seems the answer is yes. All these books I was hugely excited for because of reviews that I had seen on BookTube, because of all the hype for them. I went into each and every one of them a little bit cautiously because I always feel like books that are hugely hyped that I've heard so much amazing things about, I'm going to end up being let down because I'm expecting something far more amazing than it actually is. However, with all 10 of these books, I was not disappointed. So if we're going to go by these books alone, it seems that I can definitely trust BookTube recommendations, and I will continue to buy books because of BookTube recommendations and hopefully have just as great a time. As I said, I do have so many more books that I have bought because of BookTube, so maybe at some point I'll do more videos in this sort of series area, I guess. Maybe some vlogs reading books that BookTube made me buy, maybe a part 2 to this once I've read more books on my shelves because of BookTube. I don't know. All I can say is that I hope that this success continues. But that is it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did make it to the end, then pop the video camera emoji down below just to signify YouTube BookTube in all its greatness. Just to let me know that you made it to the end of the video and that you enjoyed your time here. But as always, if you did enjoy this video, then do please give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe for more bookish content from me. Comment down below with any of your thoughts and feelings. I do reply to every single comment. I love you all, and I will see you in my next one.